winding down the season. We're already down to the final 4 teams, the conference championships. What are we going to bet on now? Oh boy, what? Golf? Maybe a little tiddlywinks? Maybe cockroach races. You know, whatever happened to just watching the game for the love of the game? I'm talking about football, not cockroach races. One of the things I find strange this season is the balloon heads. You know what I'm talking about here? It's these players, they come out onto the field with literally balloons on their heads instead of helmets. Anybody see this besides me? You know, it's almost like I'm playing a video game and then all of a sudden there's like a zoom in and you can see the pixels on the screen of your character. Weird. If they lose the game on Sunday, you know, some of these guys, they can always join a hot air balloon race contest. Another thing I can't wrap my head around this season is what's up with all the kicker doinks. This has been going on for a couple years now in the NFL. Lots and lots of people kicking the ball and it's doinking off the upright. You know, if you ask me, the kicker in the NFL is like the modern version of the Pan Am pilot. You know? He's in there, you know, he's kicking back a couple. Doesn't matter, the plane's on autopilot, right? Until all of a sudden it goes into a tailspin. You know, the team can't find the end zone. What does the coach do? Call in the field goal unit. Kicker's like, huh? What? Oh boy. You know, and then when you look down at the ball, you get real dizzy. He's in a tailspin as he kicks the ball and doink. 4-1 on wild card week, but I went 2-3 this past weekend. And if it wasn't for Indiana beating Miami, I would have done a lot worse. It would have been a, 1-3? My football picks? Well, thank God for college football. And for Monday miracles. Seriously, what are we going to bet on now? You know what? I'm thinking of taking odds on which of my neighbors is going to be the first to clean up his front yard. Welcome to the Play Action Sports Show yet again, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Oh boy, we went 2-3 this past weekend, but I don't think, no matter what happens, I can end up with a losing record this season because of the winners I picked this earlier in the year and throughout this playoffs. Anyway, I hope you got some value out of it. We're going to update this studio here. Studio? Office. Before next season, and I got a bye week coming up. I'm gonna take next week off. You know, I think I need it to get ready for Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, you know, the Rams, Bears. Did you guys see that? That was crazy. You thought the Bears were gonna do it, especially with that, you know, fadeaway jumper pass that I forget his name. The quarterback for the Bears threw. But you can't count the Rams out. I really think Matthew Stafford ought to be named the MVP of the league. I think that he outperformed Josh Allen, even though Allen had a great season. But, I mean, just look how far Matthew Stafford is coming along in the playoffs. And, I mean, you know, he's at that age where we're talking about retirement. But he is like the fountain of youth. You know, he's forever young. All right, let's get into our pick 2. All right, thank you again for your likes, your listens, subscribes, your views. We're going to do some other things here in the off season, including creating content that has to do with the history of the league, history of certain teams. It's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm going to have some fun in the off season, getting ready for baseball's comeback in the spring. But either way, thank you for hitting that like. Stay up to date on all our content, and let's do our pick 2. Only 2 games, the AFC and the NFC championship games on Sunday. I've been telling you for a little while just how fast the NFL goes, especially when you get really down to the last couple of weeks of the year. When you get past Thanksgiving, it's over. It's just about over. We've got 2 games for you this week. Big games. The Patriots at Broncos. The Patriots are 4.5-point favorites. The money line is giving you $188 if you put $100 on the Broncos. However, you would have to spend, you would have to wager $225 to win 100 on the Patriots because they are the favorite. It's a 42.5 point OU. I'm going to pick the Patriots to win this game 24-14. They win by 10 on the strength of that offense. Drake May doing what it takes. 4.5 point favorites. I think they win by 10. I think they win by 10 and they cover. All right. Next is the NFC Championship game. My team, the Rams, go to Seattle to face the Seahawks. Of course, the Seahawks trounced the 49ers last week. The Rams barely snuck by the Bears. I think, the Cinderella season for the Patriots is going to continue. But the season, the Ram season is going to end here. The Seahawks are going to win. It's going to be 34-28. They're 1.5 point favorites, which means I think they're going to cover easily. And it's going to be the over because they're giving us 47.5. Look, if you bet $100 on the Rams and they win, you only get $110 back. And it would cost you $130 to make $100 if you bet on the Seahawks. It doesn't really look like a great game for wagering in my estimation. That's because I like to take the high risk, high reward bets. Because if you don't do enough of these small bets, then it's really not even worth your while. Yeah. So once again, to recap, Patriots over the Broncos. I just don't think that without Bo Nix, they're going to be able to do it. I know they have a backup quarterback. Forgot his name. He was drafted by the Patriots. I just think without Bo Nix, it's just not going to be the marquee game that it could have been. Patriots win 24-14, and the Seahawks are going to beat the Rams, unfortunately, 34-28. The Super Bowl is going to come down to the Seahawks and the Patriots, and it's going to be the rematch, of course, of the big bad call. Everybody remembers the big bad call. We just saw Pete Carroll get fired from the Raiders, and it brings back memories of when he called a pass on the goal line when he had Marshawn Lynch in the back field. I don't understand what he was thinking. That's probably the worst call in NFL history, in Super Bowl history. I was watching it, everybody was watching it. What were you thinking, Pete? I don't know. I like Pete Carroll, but that was an awful call. This time I think the Seahawks get their revenge and they're going to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I know I've done a lot of different Super Bowl picks, and technically my first Super Bowl pick is still possible because I picked the Patriots and the Rams. But I can't do that. I got to pick the Seahawks to beat the Rams, and it's going to be a Seahawks over the Patriots Super Bowl. Can't wait to see it. All right, that was it for our pick 2 this week. Usually it's a pick 6. Again, like always, gamble responsibly and enjoy this weekend's games. It has been one heck of a season. Lots of fourth quarter comebacks, lots of miraculous plays. It's been something else to watch. I've been an NFL fan all my life. Ever since I was a kid, and they introduced me to the sport with the huddles. Anybody remember the huddles? There were like these little mascots. Each team had, like the Eagles would have a little eagle, and the Raiders would have a little loser. No, I'm just kidding, Raiders. I'm just kidding. It was a pirate. I really wish the Raiders would get it together. I don't know what it's going to take for that organization to do better, but they deserve it. I keep saying on this, I keep harping on this. The Raiders are a lot like the Yankees, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Dodgers, the Lakers. Everybody in the world knows the Raiders. It's a world-renowned brand in sports. Like Manchester United. I mean, these are teams that you can go to the middle of the woods somewhere, and Sasquatch would tell you, "Hey, what's the score on the Lakers game?" So I think the Raiders should do a lot better. I don't understand why they don't. I mean, everybody blames the Davis family, Al Davis's son. I don't know. I don't know how that's working out. I can tell you this much. Teams that do not modernize, teams that do not allow their coordinators and their coaches to run the game, and even the players in some instances, are not going to do well in this modern game. If you've got the owner like Jerry Jones, calling the shots, in between oxygen treatments, then you got a real problem. Youth, you can't overstate the value of youth when it comes to athletics, when it comes to even coaching and running teams and Congress for that matter. Okay. What else is going on? I think what is it? The Australian Open is happening right now in tennis. Boy, there's just not a whole lot going on. I'm going to enjoy this weekend's game. Sunday, conference championships. I'm going to miss having football on Thursdays, on Saturdays. No more college football until the fall. But between now and then, we're going to enjoy 2026, aren't we? I think so. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a blast. We're going to have some good weather. We're going to eat some nice food, which is my favorite part of the whole deal. All right, I think I've dragged this out quite enough. You guys enjoy. Just look for the Patriots to beat the Broncos and look for the Seahawks to beat my team, the Rams. And listen, if I'm wrong about it, I will be extremely happy to see my team back in the Super Bowl.